Fortune is a woman, and if one desires to rule her, he must seize her with force. Niccolo Machiavelli. The moment you start loving her more is the moment you lose control, not because you're not enough, not because she's cruel, but because you were never taught how her desire truly works. You've been told your whole life, be kind, be loyal, be available, be consistent. You text first, you plan the dates, you listen, you support, you give her everything thinking that the more you give, the more she'll love you. But then something strange happens. She starts pulling back. The texts slow down. The attention fades. The spark dies. You try harder thinking it's your fault. You open up more. You prove yourself again. You sacrifice even more pieces of yourself chasing love, like a starving man chasing crumbs. And still, she walks away. Here's the brutal truth no one dares to say. In every relationship, whoever needs less controls more. Desire doesn't chase comfort. Desire chases mystery, tension, and emotional gravity. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago, and today I will show you exactly how he would control her mind, her emotions, and her reality without ever chasing again. Rule 1. Invisibility creates hunger. Have you ever noticed this strange pattern when you're fully available to a woman, always texting? First, always calling, always trying to prove yourself, her interest starts to fade. But the moment you pull back, when you disappear just slightly suddenly, she starts thinking about you again. That's not an accident. That's psychology. You see, desire isn't fueled by comfort. Desire lives in uncertainty. And Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power doesn't come from constant presence, it comes from calculated absence. Most men, out of fear, try to stay visible at all times. They believe that if she sees them often enough, she'll stay interested. But what really happens? She starts taking you for granted. She knows exactly where you are. She knows exactly how you feel. There's no mystery left to solve. No emotional puzzle for her mind to chase. Machiavelli would never hand over that kind of predictability. Instead, he'd stay present enough to spark her interest, but invisible enough to ignite her curiosity. A missed call, a delayed reply, a sudden silence. Not to play childish games, but to activate one of the most powerful forces in the female mind, the need to seek what she cannot fully possess. When she doesn't know what you're thinking, when she wonders why you're not chasing, her mind starts chasing you. And once her mind is chasing her, emotions will follow. This is the first step to true psychological control. Be seen just enough to be desired and unseen enough to be irreplaceable. Rule 2. Control reality. Through her emotions, not facts. You probably think that if you explain yourself better, if you're honest, if you're logical, she'll finally understand you. You believe that truth equals trust. But here's what no one teaches you. Women don't fall for facts. They fall for how you make them feel. You could bring her the most honest version of yourself. Tell her your intentions. Show her your loyalty. Pour out your emotions with perfect clarity. And yet, she grows distant. Because facts don't spark obsession. Emotions do. Machiavelli understood that people believe what they want to believe, not what's true. Especially when it comes to desire. When a woman feels good in your presence, when you create an emotional experience she craves, she doesn't care whether every word you say is perfectly accurate. She cares how you make her feel about herself. You don't win her heart by being right. You win it by making her feel seen, understood, special, different. This isn't about deception. It's about understanding human nature. The man who can mirror her emotions, who listens without trying to fix, who reflects her unspoken insecurities while offering safety, becomes the one man she can't replace. Control her emotional experience, and you control her reality. That's how Machiavelli would win, not by proving his worth, but by becoming the emotional gravity she orbits around. Rule 3. Never allow full understanding. Have you ever wondered why the men who reveal everything rarely keep a woman's interest? Why the moment she feels she's fully figured you out, something inside her shifts. The excitement fades. The curiosity dies. The chase ends. That's because certainty kills mystery, and mystery is the fuel of feminine desire. Machiavelli mastered one principle: power lives in unanswered questions. When a woman fully understands you, your emotions, your patterns, your intentions, she loses the emotional puzzle her mind needs to stay invested. There's nothing left for her to chase, nothing left to solve. Most men desperate for connection overexpose themselves. They explain every thought. They overcommunicate. They lay their soul bare hoping for emotional closeness. But closeness without mystery turns into comfort, and comfort turns into boredom. Instead, Machiavelli would offer glimpses but never the full picture. He'd leave intentional gaps in the story, moments of silence, unanswered texts, shifts in energy she can't predict, not to confuse but to stimulate her mind into constant engagement. The female mind obsesses over what it cannot define. When she's left wondering, replaying every word, analyzing every pause, she's already emotionally trapped. Don't allow full understanding. Allow endless fascination. That's how you stay unforgettable. Rule 4. Limit what she sees. Guard what you do. In today's world, most men make one fatal mistake: they overexpose themselves. They post their every move on social media. They share every success, every failure, every emotional state. They believe that the more she knows, the more secure she'll feel. The more open they are, the stronger the bond will be. But what they don't realize is this: the more she sees, the less she desires. Machiavelli understood that power isn't in what you show. Power lives in what you conceal. When a woman sees every angle of your life, where you go, who you're with, what you're thinking, there's nothing left to wonder about. No mystery, no tension, no chase. She feels like she owns the full map, and once she has the map, she stops exploring. Instead, Machiavelli would master selective exposure. He would reveal glimpses, a photo, a moment, a fragment of his life carefully chosen, enough to spark curiosity, but never enough to satisfy it. She thinks she knows him, but senses there's always something deeper she hasn't seen yet. Her mind stays engaged because she's constantly trying to fill in the missing pieces. Who is he really? When I'm not around, what is he planning? Why do I feel like there's more to him than what he shows? The unknown becomes magnetic. Never give her full access. Make her earn every layer. Because once she thinks she's figured you out, the game is already over. Rule 5. The calculated crack. Most men believe that perfection attracts women. They try to appear flawless. Always calm, always strong, always in control. They hide every weakness, thinking that if they look invincible, she'll respect them more. But here's the paradox. Perfection doesn't seduce her, vulnerability does. Not weakness, but controlled imperfection. Machiavelli understood one simple truth. The human mind desires what feels real, but not fully reachable. When you present yourself as flawless, you become distant, almost robotic. She admires you, but she doesn't connect. Admiration is not obsession. Obsession requires something deeper, the glimpse of humanity beneath the mask. Machiavelli would maintain his calm exterior, strong, composed, untouchable. But then, at rare, intentional moments, he'd allow a subtle crack to appear. A pause in his voice, a sudden look of pain, a sharp silence after a vulnerable topic. Not enough to collapse his frame, but just enough to hint that there's a hidden depth, a private battle, a mystery she's not yet invited to understand. That crack becomes irresistible. Her mind begins to whisper, "There's more to him. He trusts me enough to show me a part no one else sees. I need to understand him completely." And in that moment, she's no longer observing you. She's chasing your soul. Perfection creates distance. Controlled imperfection creates intimacy, but always on your terms. Rule 6. Let silence build your power. Most men fear silence. When a woman goes quiet, they panic. They rush to fill the space with explanations, reassurances, long messages, and endless words, trying desperately to keep her engaged. But what they don't realize is this: the man who controls the silence controls the room. Machiavelli understood that words are cheap. True power is built in the space between words. When you speak less, you force her mind to work harder. Every unanswered question, every unexplained pause becomes a puzzle for her to solve. Her imagination fills the gaps, and what her mind creates will always be more powerful than anything you could have said. While other men are busy talking, over-explaining, and proving themselves, you remain calm, silent, unbothered. When she tests you, you don't react. When she throws emotional bait, you simply smile. When she demands answers, you offer a quiet pause that leaves her wondering, why isn't he reacting? Is he upset or just in control? What is he thinking right now? The uncertainty drives her deeper into obsession, because silence creates mystery. Mystery creates tension, and tension fuels attraction. Every moment you allow silence to breathe, you elevate your value without saying a word. Remember this: the loudest man is rarely the most powerful. The man who controls silence controls her mind. Rule 7. Offer security without full comfort. Here's the trap most men fall into. They believe women want constant security, so they offer complete availability. They answer every call, respond to every text instantly, say yes to every request. They create a perfect world where she never has to worry. At first, she feels safe, but slowly, something shifts. The excitement fades, the spark weakens, and eventually, she begins to withdraw. Why? Because women are not wired for constant comfort. They crave emotional tension, the sweet edge of uncertainty. Machiavelli understood that true desire lives in the space between safety and unpredictability. Too much safety. She gets bored. Too much unpredictability. She feels unsafe. The secret is controlled imbalance. You give her enough attention to feel chosen, but not so much that she feels she owns you. Some days, you're fully present, engaged, attentive, making her feel special. Other days, you're distant, focused on your mission, unavailable, silently occupied with your own world. This fluctuation keeps her mind engaged. She begins asking, "Did I do something? Is he pulling away? How do I get his attention back?" That's when she starts chasing. Remember, attraction dies in full comfort, but flourishes in controlled unpredictability. Be stable, but never fully predictable. That's how you stay in control. Rule 8. The illusion of leadership. Most men try to seize control by force. They argue. They debate. They demand respect, thinking leadership is about domination. But every time you force control, you trigger resistance. You awaken her defenses. Machiavelli knew a far more dangerous truth. The best way to lead is to make her believe she's leading. When she feels in control, when she believes her choices shape the relationship, her guard drops. She relaxes. She opens up. She becomes emotionally invested, thinking, "I chose him. I'm guiding this." But behind the scenes, you're quietly studying her fears, her patterns, her emotional triggers, her insecurities. You're not reacting, you're gathering data. And as she feels more powerful, you position yourself to influence her deepest emotions. When the moment arrives, when tension builds or conflict surfaces, you don't fight for dominance. You simply make subtle shifts. Present her with options that guide her where you already want her to go. Allow her to feel it was her choice. I feel like I'm finally being heard. I made the decision to move forward. In reality, you've been leading her mind long before she realized. True power isn't in taking control, it's in allowing her to surrender control without ever realizing it happened. That's Machiavellian leadership. Silent, invisible, absolute. Rule 9. Create addiction, then remove access. Most men chase attention. They give and give, hoping that constant presence will create loyalty. But Machiavelli understood something far more powerful. True loyalty isn't built through giving non-stop, it's built through controlled deprivation. At first, you become her safe space. You listen when no one else listens. You validate when no one else notices. You offer calm when her world feels chaotic. Bit by bit, she grows emotionally dependent. She starts to lean on you for comfort, for stability, for clarity. You become her escape, the one person who sees her fully and offers peace in a world full of noise. But then once she's accustomed to your emotional presence, you quietly withdraw. Not with anger, not with drama, simply with absence. Suddenly, she feels the emptiness, the void where your comfort once lived. She questions herself. Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel so unsettled? How do I get him back? And that's when the real power begins. Because now she's not chasing you. She's chasing the version of herself that only exists when you're near. This is emotional addiction. Create the high, control the withdrawal, and you'll never need to chase her again because she'll be chasing the feeling you engineered. Rule 10. Turn favors into invisible chains. Most men offer favors hoping to win her affection. They believe that by being helpful, supportive, and endlessly available, she'll feel grateful and that gratitude will turn into love. But here's what few understand. Gratitude fades. Debt lingers. Machiavelli never gave freely. Every favor he offered was an investment not for immediate return, but for long-term leverage. When you help her solve a problem no one else could, when you guide her through a decision she struggled with, when you offer insight that clears her confusion, you don't just become valuable, you become necessary. She starts to feel indebted, not because you demanded anything, but because deep down, she knows she couldn't have done it alone. And human psychology hates imbalance. Over time, that silent weight grows inside her. He's done so much for me. I owe him more than I can repay. I can't lose him. I wouldn't know what to do without him. And that guilt, that invisible obligation, slowly binds her. True power isn't forcing her to stay. It's creating a debt she feels compelled to repay again and again. Not because you ask, but because her own mind won't let her walk away. Rule 11. Make her betray for you. Most men think loyalty comes from being nice. They believe that if they're supportive enough, patient enough, good enough, she'll stay loyal forever. But Machiavelli understood something far darker. Loyalty isn't built on kindness. It's built on self-investment. You don't gain her full loyalty by demanding it. You secure it by allowing her to cross small moral lines, for you lines that quietly tie her to you emotionally. It starts small. She shares a secret she's never told anyone. She vents about a friend she's supposed to protect. She admits thoughts she wouldn't dare say out loud to anyone else. You don't pressure her. You simply listen. Calm, non-judgmental, creating a safe space where she feels completely understood. And with every secret she reveals, she steps deeper into your world. Because now she's invested. She's compromised her alliances. She's shared things that, if exposed, could damage her image. And the only person who holds those secrets is you. The more she confides in you, the harder it becomes for her to pull away. Because leaving you would mean facing the weight of everything she's already revealed. This is silent leverage. The deeper she walks into your world, the more impossible it becomes for her to leave, not because you force her, but because her own guilt, vulnerability, and investment trap her. Rule 12. Erode her alliances quietly. Women rarely operate alone. They build emotional alliances, friends, family, co-workers, networks that validate their choices and influence their decisions. And here's where most men fail. They try to confront these alliances directly. They argue with her friends, criticize her family, challenge the people she trusts. Machiavelli would never make that mistake. You don't destroy her alliances by attacking them. You dismantle them by planting silent seeds of doubt. When she vents about a friend, you don't defend or condemn, you listen. Then gently you drop subtle questions. Did you ever notice how she only calls when she needs something? I wonder if she truly supports your happiness or if she's a bit jealous. Funny how she never seems happy when you succeed. You never accuse. You never force her to choose. You simply allow her own mind to start questioning. Doubt begins to spread quietly inside her. Conversations with that friend feel different. She notices small patterns she once ignored. And slowly, trust begins to erode. The more isolated she feels emotionally, the more she turns to you, the one person who feels safe, stable, and trustworthy. You don't need to pull her away from others. You only need to let her pull herself away, one doubt at a time. And in that isolation, your control grows absolute. Rule 13. Reflect her insecurities. Every woman carries insecurities. No matter how beautiful, how confident, how successful she appears, there are always silent fears lurking beneath the surface. But most men make two fatal mistakes. Either they ignore her insecurities entirely, or they try to fix them with endless compliments. Both approaches fail. Machiavelli understood that true control isn't in erasing her insecurities. It's in reflecting them back softly, skillfully, in a way that binds her closer. When you recognize what she hides, her self-doubt, her fear of not being enough, her hidden wounds, and gently bring them to light without judgment, you create something powerful. Emotional intimacy. You might say, you're stronger than people realize, especially for someone who constantly carries so much responsibility. You're beautiful, but I know that sometimes you still question if people see the real you. I see how much you hide behind that smile. You don't need to with me. Suddenly she feels exposed, but safe. Seen, but accepted. You become the one man who understands her in ways others can't even detect. And the deeper she feels seen, the more emotionally tied she becomes. Because once you touch the parts of her she hides from the world, she can no longer detach. You've seen the real her, and she can't walk away from that without feeling incomplete. This is not manipulation. This is mastery of emotional gravity. Rule 14. Never be the executioner. Powerful men know. When you're the one who swings the blade, you're the one they blame. Most men, when they feel wronged or disrespected, confront directly. They argue, they accuse, they issue ultimatums thinking that by taking control, they demonstrate strength. But Machiavelli mastered a higher level of control. Never be the executioner. Let others remove themselves. When tension arises, you don't confront her failures. You don't chase closure. You don't give ultimatums. Instead, you stay calm, distant, collected. You allow her to feel the weight of her own actions. You allow circumstances to corner her decisions. You become the mirror that reflects her own choices without forcing her hand. Eventually, she either corrects her behavior or removes herself entirely. Either way, you stay above the drama. And more importantly, you remain untouchable. She may feel guilt, she may feel regret, but she can never say you forced her. The responsibility rests entirely on her. Because true power is not found in confrontation. It's found in silent consequence. The man who never swings the blade remains respected, feared, and desired, even after the dust settles. Rule 15. Make her talk. You listen. Weak men talk to prove themselves. They overshare. They feel the need to explain their every thought, every plan, every emotion, hoping that words will buy trust. But Machiavelli knew, the man who speaks less controls more. The man who listens controls everything. When you let her talk, something powerful happens. She reveals far more than she intends. Her hopes, her fears, her hidden insecurities, her real priorities. Every word she speaks is information. Every detail gives you deeper access into her emotional blueprint. Most men try to fill silences with validation, but you allow silence to breathe. You hold eye contact. You nod without interrupting. You ask simple, open-ended questions. What made you feel that way? Tell me more. The more she speaks, the more emotionally invested she becomes. Because while she's revealing herself, she's bonding herself to you. And in her mind, you become the one man who truly understands her simply because you've heard what no one else has. Words can be debated, but what she says voluntarily becomes her emotional truth. And when her truth lives inside your mind, you control the frame, not through force, but through her own confessions. Rule 17. Brand your absence permanently. Most men fear absence. They believe that if they're not constantly present, they'll be forgotten. So they overcompensate. They text daily. They seek constant reassurance. They try to maintain visibility, afraid that distance will make her lose interest. But Machiavelli knew the deeper truth. Your real power isn't in your presence, it's in the mark you leave when you're gone. You don't want her to simply remember you. You want to become the standard she subconsciously measures every man against forever. While you're with her, you imprint your energy, your calm confidence, your emotional control, the way you made her feel safe, yet challenged, secure, yet intrigued. Then when you step away, whether for a day, a week, or a lifetime, your absence echoes louder than your words ever did. Every new man she meets is compared to you. He doesn't listen like he did. He doesn't challenge me like he did. He doesn't make me feel the same. Even as she moves on physically, mentally, she remains trapped inside the frame you built. This is psychological branding. When you master it, you never truly leave because she carries your imprint everywhere she goes. That's the difference between being a memory and being a standard. Rule 18. Let fear do the unseen work. Most men believe that to control a woman, they must assert themselves, loudly argue, threaten, demand. But loud control always invites resistance. It awakens her defenses. It makes her push back. Machiavelli mastered a far more dangerous truth. The strongest fear is the one you never speak. The unspoken consequence is more terrifying than any threat. When you remain calm in moments of conflict, when you don't react emotionally, you create a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. Her mind rushes to fill that silence. Is he angry? Did I go too far? Is he rethinking everything? That internal uncertainty triggers something far stronger than any spoken warning, self-generated fear. Because what the mind imagines is always far worse than what you could say. When she doesn't know where you stand, when she senses your capacity for silent withdrawal, for emotional detachment, she becomes cautious, careful, compliant. You don't need to threaten her. You don't need to control her directly. You simply let her fear losing access to you, and that fear will keep her chasing stability you control. That's real power, invisible, quiet, absolute. Rule 19. Delay revenge until it hurts. When most men feel disrespected or betrayed, they react instantly. They argue. They confront. They send emotional texts in the heat of anger. They believe immediate reaction shows strength. But Machiavelli knew better. Instant reaction gives away your emotional control. Delayed response turns your revenge into legend. When she crosses a boundary, you don't lash out. You don't show anger. You don't chase confrontation. Instead, you stay calm. You observe. You let her believe she got away with it. And that belief, that false sense of security, becomes her greatest vulnerability. Because when you strike, it won't be during her defense. It will be when her guard is down, when she feels safe, when she least expects consequences. The mind fears delayed consequences far more than immediate ones. Because when consequences arrive late, they feel heavier, more calculated, more permanent. This isn't about cruelty. It's about psychological correction. The man who reacts instantly is ruled by emotion. The man who waits rules the game, because delayed revenge isn't just punishment, it's a permanent lesson etched into her memory, one she'll never forget. Rule 20. Become her system, not her man. Most men want to be her man. They want the title, the status, the public claim. But Machiavelli knew titles fade, attachments shift, but systems endure. The goal isn't to be just her boyfriend or partner. The goal is to embed yourself so deeply into her psychology that even when you're not around, you still control her thinking. You become the voice she hears when making decisions. What would he say? How would he handle this? He wouldn't approve of this. Your principles guide her even in your absence. Your standards shape how she sees every future relationship. You become her internal compass. While other men may come and go, they all fall short, not because you're physically present, but because your influence is built into her emotional operating system. This is psychological embedding. You offer structure when she feels lost. You offer clarity when she feels confused. You offer stability when her emotions waver, and over time she no longer simply wants you, she needs your frame to function. When you become her system, you no longer fight for her presence. Because even if she walks away physically, she remains mentally imprisoned inside the world you built. That's not just power, that's permanent dominance. Rule 21. Make her afraid to speak your name. True power isn't found in constant presence. It's not in the attention, the conversations, or the labels. Real power lives in the shadow you leave behind. Most men want to be remembered with love, with admiration, with fond stories. But Machiavelli understood something far deeper. The man she cannot forget is not the one she loves. It's the one she fears to even mention. When you master emotional control, when you embed yourself into her system, you become more than a memory, you become legend. Not a man she openly discusses, but a silent ghost that follows her into every future interaction. When she speaks of you, it's in hushed tones, rare, reserved, only with her closest confidants or late at night alone with her own mind. He changed me. I was never the same after him. No one else ever made me feel like that. And deep inside, there's a quiet fear of comparing every future man to you, fear of facing how deeply you shaped her identity, fear of ever crossing your path again, knowing she could lose control all over. This is legacy power. You don't need to remind her you existed. The echo of your presence haunts her choices, her emotions, her standards long after you're gone. And that, above all, is the purest form of psychological domination. Silent, permanent, untouchable. Final message: the door. Most men never walk through. Most men will never understand what you've just seen. They'll keep chasing, keep explaining, keep offering more while receiving less, because that's how they've been trained to serve while blind, to love while powerless, to give everything while getting nothing real in return. But now, you see it. You've stepped into the uncomfortable truth most men fear to face. The game was never about being the nicest, the most available, the most understanding. It was always about control, control of self, control of emotion, control of reality. Machiavelli didn't teach hate. He taught mastery. Because when you master yourself, you master her. Her mind, her emotions, her attachments. You no longer chase. You no longer beg. You lead. Now ask yourself, are you ready to live it? Or will you scroll back into the same illusion that keeps most men weak? If you feel something inside you awakening, don't silence it. Like this video. Comment which rule hit you hardest, and share this with a brother still trapped inside the illusion. Because the world profits from his confusion, but you don't belong to that world anymore.